Liesl's intuition saves Britt, and Anna is closer to the edge than anyone knows. Oh, darlings, this first story is one that is going to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, because the danger coming for Britt right now is not walking toward her with a weapon anyone can see. It is wearing the face of someone who loves her. Someone who would be horrified, in her right mind, at what she is being pushed toward. And the only person who noticed soon enough to do something about it is the one person who has always operated on instinct rather than evidence. Liesl. Let us start with where Anna actually is right now, because the distance between who she is presenting herself as and who she actually is has never been wider or more dangerous. Anna came back to Port Charles performing recovery. She fooled her doctors in France. She fooled Felicia. She has been managing the performance of being okay with the discipline and precision of someone trained in exactly this kind of deception. Nobody looking at Anna from the outside would have sufficient reason to call for an intervention. But Peter is not outside anymore. He is not standing in the corner of the room where Anna can at least acknowledge the separation between what she sees and what is real. He is in her ear constantly. He is in her face. And the terrifying shift that has happened, the shift that changes everything about the threat level of this situation, is that Anna has stopped fighting him. She is not telling him he is not real. She is not pushing back. She is not doing the work of maintaining the boundary between the hallucination and herself. She is simply listening. And when someone who is seeing visions stops arguing with those visions, they have begun to accept them as real. That is not a minor development. That is the line between someone struggling with trauma and someone who has crossed into genuinely dangerous territory. Peter's argument about Britt is as illogical as it is chilling. He is telling Anna that all phasans are like their father, that the blood makes them dangerous, that Britt needs to be eliminated before she can cause the damage she is supposedly destined for. If Anna were herself, clear-eyed, fully present, operating from the person she has spent decades being, she would immediately point out the absurdity. Peter himself carries that same blood. By his own logic, he would be condemning himself. But Anna is not herself. And Peter is not a figure she is examining logically anymore. So when Liesl walks into that hospital and sees Anna hiding in a position of surveillance, watching every move Britt makes, still and focused in the way of someone who has a purpose, Liesl's gut says everything. She does not wait for proof. She does not try to start a conversation with Anna about what she might be doing and why. She acts. She gets Anna away from that spot. She puts herself between her daughter and whatever Anna had been building toward. And in doing so, without fully knowing all the details, without being handed a complete picture, Liesl probably saved Britt's life. The complicated history between Anna and Liesl, the mistrust, the years of rivalry, the blame that went in both directions. None of it mattered in that moment. What mattered was a mother's intuition about her child. And Liesl, for all her own history of dark choices and complicated motivations, has always been absolutely clear about one thing. Britt is everything. Is Drew helping Curtis? Or is he playing a longer game? Now, darlings, let us talk about Drew, because the man who emerged from that lake dripping wet and full of fury has been doing something that nobody quite expected. He has been making moves that look on the surface like genuine attempts at repair. He offered to help Curtis at his trial. He was willing to walk back testimony that could have complicated things. He reached out. He showed up. And Port Charles, reasonably, is asking the question that anyone who has been paying attention should be asking. Is this real? Or is Drew Kane running a con? Let us give Drew the benefit of his history first. He and Curtis have genuine roots. A real friendship that predates all the recent drama by years. A PI business they built together. Shared memories that include the kind of ridiculous, humanizing details, like Curtis's deep and abiding terror of rats, that you only accumulate with someone you have actually spent significant time with. Drew and Curtis had something real before the Aurora situation and before the Quartermain complications pulled them in different directions. Martin believed Drew was sincere. Martin is not easily fooled. He took Drew at his word because the offer made a certain kind of internal sense. A man who is trying to reclaim something of who he was before everything fell apart, reaching back toward a friendship that predated the worst of what happened. And the testimony issue itself is actually somewhat elegant in its simplicity. Drew communicated certain things about Willow and Route 91 through blinks in response to leading questions from Joe. That methodology has enough procedural problems attached to it that walking it back, saying Joe misread him, saying the communication was imprecise, is entirely plausible. It does not require Drew to lie so much as to introduce reasonable doubt about something that was always on shaky, evidential ground. But here is where Martin's optimism meets the complicating factor of everything Drew said at the Quartermaine estate. The Quartermaines will lose everything. That was not the language of a man in a forgiving mood. That was the language of a man who has a plan and is patient enough to execute it in stages.
Drew needs a job.
Drew needs resources. Drew needs to not be entirely at Willow's mercy in the divorce that is coming. Aurora is the company he founded. Michael is sitting in a position at that company that Drew may feel belongs to him. And Curtis is the partner who could, if properly motivated, help Drew reclaim it. Helping Curtis at trial is not necessarily generosity. It might be investment. The kind of move that puts Curtis in your debt at exactly the moment when you need an ally inside a specific institution. And the additional layer, the perk Drew would gain by reclaiming his position at Aurora, is authority over Nina and Crimson, over the woman who pushed him into that lake. The chess piece placement there is not accidental. Drew may genuinely want to rebuild something with Curtis. But whether that genuine desire and the strategic calculation underneath it can coexist without one eventually overriding the other, that is the question Port Charles is going to be living with as this plays out. Putting it all together, what this week reveals about where everything is heading. And now, darlings, let us take this final segment to look at the full picture, because this week in Port Charles is not just a collection of dramatic moments. It is a set of revelations about where the major storylines are heading as summer moves toward its conclusion. Anna's situation is the most urgent. Liesl intervened this week. But intervention is not treatment. Whatever is happening inside Anna's mind has not been addressed by moving her away from Britt in a single moment. Peter is still there. The mission is still there. And the question of who catches it next, who gets close enough to understand what Anna is actually dealing with, is the thread that is going to determine how this story resolves. Valentine is probably the person best positioned to see it. He already noticed something was off when Anna briefly drifted during their conversation. He knows her well enough to read the difference between Anna managing something difficult and Anna losing ground to something she cannot control. And the fact that he is still in Port Charles, still close to her, still deeply invested in her well-being, that is the safety net that may matter most. Drew's long game is beginning to take shape. He is making calculated moves that look like reconciliation while building towards something larger. The Quartermaines are in his crosshairs. Michael specifically. And Curtis, who may be reading the situation at face value, could end up being positioned as an unwitting ally in something he would never consciously agree to. The pill situation with Jacinda and Willow is heading toward a confrontation that nobody is going to walk away from unchanged. The question of whether Jacinda survives that confrontation, whether Willow's increasing willingness to escalate leads somewhere fatal, is sitting underneath every scene these two characters share. And Britt is alive today because Liesl trusted her gut. Tomorrow that might require something more. Every thread in Port Charles right now is pulling toward something. Every character is standing at the edge of a decision that will define them. Every secret is working its way toward the light that will eventually expose it. This is the summer that General Hospital reminded everyone watching why we have always loved this show. Not just for the drama, though the drama has been extraordinary. For the depth. For the characters who feel like people rather than plot devices. For the stories that earn their moments of catharsis by doing the slow work of building to them.